Hi everybody, how's it going? My name is Nick Machete, and today I'm going to be discussing with you renters insurance. Originally, when I was planning my speech, I had a completely different topic. This was going back to last week. I was already doing all the homework on, I felt pretty good on, but I had a situation that came up in the middle of the week that I kind of had a different change of heart on it and really wanted to do this speech. So back a couple of months ago, I wrote a new client moving into Massachusetts from I don't know, some Midwest state, and we obviously wrote the car insurance. We got him taken care of there, and we talked about renter's insurance for his personal property. And he was convinced that his landlord plan was going to provide him coverage, and he had no need for the coverage. So did my best to explain that that's probably not the case, but at the end of the day, he was felt comfortable. He didn't think he needed the coverage. So that was kind of that. So back Wednesday, I had a phone call from him saying that he wanted to get renter's insurance in place because someone actually broke into his apartment and stole $5,000 worth of belongings, which is really quite powerful if you think about it. There's coverages that exist to protect you, and if you decline them and to be out all that money is a really bad thing. So what I want to do is just discuss basic renter's insurance, how the coverages work, and really at the end of it, have you all calling your insurance agents to set it up if you don't currently have renter's insurance. So that's kind of the mission of what I look to do with this speech. So some fun facts that come from the state of Connecticut. This is from their Census Bureau, and that's 33% of eligible adults are renters. So one, that means that we do have a lot of renters in this state. And another one, this is from Insurance Information Institute, says that 37% of eligible renters carry renters insurance, which is insane because that's a really, really large amount of people who are not carrying it. So, with this, it's really straightforward. It's not complex. Insurance seems very complex, but it's really simple when it's broken down. So there's three parts to this. We're going to have the personal property, which is the meat and potatoes of a renter's plan. There's also going to be liability coverage, and we're going to wrap it up with loss of use coverage. So personal property is very, very straightforward. You look around your room, you think of things that you have. A common thing that I usually say is if you flip your apartment upside down, the things that fall out that are yours are usually going to be covered under a plan. Now, some people think that they either don't have enough stuff to get renter's insurance or their stuff's not valued the way that they would want it to be, which with renter's insurance across the boards, most plans have the option to not depreciate value. So what that means is if you have a chair that's 20 years old, an insurance company is going to pay out a chair like today. They're not going to depreciate it for you. Some will have that in their plans, but then almost always there's going to be an option to have a full replacement value. So that's usually the first thing I tell people is, well, if you have all this old stuff, if something ever happens, then you essentially are going to get brand new stuff and you're going to have coverages to protect you for that, and it's generally really inexpensive. So in terms, again, with personal property, the one tricky thing is that things like rings, cameras like we have here, while this isn't a high value camera, but certain articles like that are going to be a little bit more expensive to what you would have to go out and get appraised for a certain value. So let's go back and say that this camera is worth $10,000. A general insurance plan may only pay up to $1,000 for cameras just across the boards. So if you go get appraised and valued, it can actually be added onto your plan for that full value. So definitely a really neat coverage to have if you have rings, jewelry, paintings, anything you can think of like that. The next portion we're going to go through is medical payment and liability coverage. This is pretty unique, and landlords nowadays are starting to require that they have some form of this insurance. For them, I mean the tenants coming in. And what it does is it's going to provide a basic $100,000 in liability and $1,000 in medical payments. So we'll break those both down. The liability is going to really cover you in the event you're sued. So some common things that you could see is a dog bite. If you were hosting a party and there was an intoxicated guest and they left and got into a car accident, you're actually liable for that. So basic things like that are going to be covered under liability. And that's huge because landlords want to have as much risk aversion as possible. So if there's a way they can cut that back, they're definitely for it. The next coverage is going to be that medical payment. And this is a little bit different. You see it more with homeowners insurance, but The way that medical payment works is, let's say someone comes over your house and they trip because you had a chair that was left in the middle of the hallway and they sprained their ankle. Your plan can actually provide $1,000 of medical coverage as a goodwill payment. So this may be important if they had to go to an urgent care or maybe a hospital, and you could cover their deductible with it. So it is a pretty neat coverage just to be included. You never really see a claim with it, but just in the event something ever happens, to know it's there is very nice. Lastly, the loss of use coverage of a basic renter's plan. It's pretty unique how this works. So this is extra expenses that occur after a loss. So let's say, for example, I'm renting and there's a fire. So I have to go to a hotel for 2 weeks while all the damages are repaired. So in that time frame, I have to go out to eat every night. I have to go out and do laundry, have a professional dry cleaner for my work clothes just because I don't have the ability to do so in my apartment. Those expenses are all going to fall under loss of use, and you're going to have protection for that. Now they cap it off. Generally, it's 20% of whatever personal property value you have. So for simple math, if you had $15,000 of personal property, your loss of use is going to be about $3,000. So with all of this, when I explain it to clients, usually the thing that they say is, well, how much does this all cost? Because it sounds really great, but if it's too much money, it's not something that I want to go through with. An average renter's plan costs $18 to $20 a month, which is incredible when you think about what it's actually going to cover for how inexpensive that is. So you still get people who will object. So the one thing that I could say to everyone who's listening now is, if you were to look around and say, if you lost everything, would you be able to rebuild using your own means? And if the answer is no, then you absolutely need to get this coverage. Some people can't do it, and if that's a risk they want to take on, that's more power to them. But for a majority of the population, that answer is going to be no. And if it is a no, then you really need to go out and get this coverage. Another fact, the Insurance Information Institute reports that about 95% of landlord plans aren't actually going to cover your renter's insurance. So back to my previous example with my gentleman who I was dealing with, there was really a really slim chance that his plan was going to have that. So what I would urge all of you to do listening right now is, if you are renting, go talk to your landlord to see what coverage exists, if any, and if not, go out and talk to an insurance agent and get this coverage, because it's really going to be valuable, and I would hate to see any of you listening to ever have something happen, because those phone calls are really tough, and it's something that I hope no one ever has to deal with. So I thank you all for listening. I hope you learned something, and I hope you decide to give your insurance agents a call. All right, take care. Have a great rest of the year.